This Geya crystal shell is a toy watch that's mimicking the shape of a Richard Mille, which happens to be another kind of toy that millionaires have. And if you ask me, there's three tiers of these kinds of watches. Of course, Richard Mille for those who have millions to spend and pretend, or at least pretend to know that there's innovation on their wrist. And then there's the mid tier, which are Rolexes. It's kind of the same vein, but it's still less loud and a little bit more elegant. And then there's Geya, the entry level tier for those guys who have four figures in their bank account and they're still keeping the dream alive, so to speak. Now, if you think that there's horology in this watch, I'll readily ban you from the show. You're not kidding anyone. But here's the thing, it's earned a living by pretending to be something else. And for many people, that might be more than enough. Now let's begin with the specs. You're getting a 43.5mm wide, 16.8 thick case with a 49.9mm lug distance. Yes, it's big, but it's still considerably wearable. The case is clear TR90 plastic, not sapphire, not ceramic, just plastic. The front glass, they say it's crystal, but it's not sapphire either. And it's got a mechanical movement, no branding, and the water resistance here is just 30 meters, so don't get cocky washing the dishes. It comes in a silicone strap with a folding clasp, and you've got these three color options, white, red, and blue. It's fast fashion in watch form, but sometimes that's the whole point. On my 6¼ inch wrist, this thing is massive. It actually makes some of my G-Shocks cry, or laugh, depending on which one you ask. But I know a lot of you watch pirates out there can pull this off. The plastic case feels smooth like glass, but lighter. And I think that's the thing that's throwing many people off here. It still feels like a toy because it kinda is. There's no screw down crown here, just pull and set. The movement isn't labeled, but let's be real, it's probably Chinese. But still, it's crisp when you pop it out and still kinda winds smooth surprisingly. And now the strap swapping is super simple and super integrated into the case, and I think this is the biggest feature of this watch. You slide it out from the crown side and it pops off clean. It's actually really secure. The case and strap rail both have this slick, smooth surface that works like friction lock. It surprised me and it holds really tight. And the clear strap, it's actually really cool. Even a frosted translucent one that only really works if you're wearing it with beach shorts. Happily, Geya provides a second strap, a black one, that's more down to earth. Both are made in silicone. This black strap has a leaf spring deployant, and yeah, it's the same kind that RM uses. It's a good strap, it's quiet, and it balances out the very loud crystal clear case. Now let's talk about the details, and I'll leave it up to you whether these things are good or bad. Let's start with the crown. The crown is massive and it's wrapped with rubber for grip. It feels like it's overkill, but it kind of works. And it also completes that Richard Mille vibe to it. From the sides, this thick plastic case gives you that sharp, glassy profile. It captures the impact of a crystal watch, even though it's just hardened plastic and ironically trying to avoid actual impact. Now the Richard Mille cosplay here continues from the dial side with these screws and it goes all the way down to the back. And here's the thing, this clear silicone strap actually works with the clear crystal case, even though it clashes with everything in your wardrobe and, at least it still sticks with its identity. Now let's zoom in with the dial and let's begin with that loom. That loom is something that you cannot ignore, it's there right in your face. We've reviewed plenty of skeletonized dials here, and when you add loom, it's a double-edged sword. Sure, it looks cool, but it also makes a busy dial even less legible. That's the trade-off, and Geya leans into it. Still, it's a nice thing to look at. You've got these brushed surfaces and even a sharp-looking badge that has these bead-blasted backdrops. It's not subtle, but it's not sloppy either. And the volume of this dial is aplenty, and that's another attraction for these Richard Mille homages. And the readout acts like a bridge, giving this whole dial its deep, layered stage. It's loud, flashy, and unapologetic. But the real gem here is really that balance wheel. Everything that's structured on the skeletonized dial is pointing at that balance wheel. And I think that's a smart move that Geya made. And no, you're not fooling anyone that this is a tourbillon. Well, maybe you could fool some people that this is a tourbillon, but it's just a balance wheel. And I think that's a good effect that they highlighted here. It adds rhythm to the chaos, and for a watch that's all about pretending, that's a clever move. Flip it over, and yeah, the party's over. There's nothing to see at the back. And Geya could have spent a little bit more on the rotor, but they didn't. Went over budget on the dial side and probably even the packaging, and that's it. That's what you get. Honestly, that's kind of disappointing because I know that these rotors you can get them really cheap now, and when it comes to manufacturing, and adding an extra $5 on the price tag won't hurt if it had that very customized rotor. And that's, I think, a missed opportunity for Geya. And here's what you've got to say about this watch. Nico Hill says, unfortunately, no chance in being able to tell the time within a second. Kinhun remarks that the white silicone strap downgrades the whole package. CC Youth is actually sad that someone would waste their money on this thing. And finally, Christopher Zatalokin is brave enough to admit it that this thing is thicker than his girlfriend. Now let's get to the good and the bad. Let's begin with the good. First, the pricing. It's under $500, and I think that's a very decent and reasonable pricing, especially for these kinds of watches. You could see that there are other watches that are the same homages to RM, but they're priced way above that. At under $500, this automatic watch is still something that's fun to look at, whether you're on the beach, on a deck, or some club that you definitely snuck into. The crystal case, it's surprisingly premium. You know, the TR90, that's actually the same material that they use for optical lenses. And actually, some Mobado lines make use of this kind of material. So it's not something that's innovative, but it's also something that's incredibly rare that when it comes to the watch industry. And like what I mentioned before, the strap swapping is the real feature and highlight here. It's supremely underrated, and it multiplies the fun when it comes to dressing up with this Richard Mille homage. And now for the bad. You really need to like this watch for you to want it. I mean, really like it. If you're that kind of person that wants to get a taste of that kind of watch, then go ahead. You have something here that's very affordable and gets the impression done. However, if you're about to drop $350, it's very easy to change your mind because there's so many options available in the market. Citizen Tsuyosa, for example, is one of the enthusiast darlings at the moment, and it looks really nice for what you're getting. And you're getting a Citizen for that kind of money. And if you're in with heritage, Seiko 5 also offers a lot of street cred and style for days. Or if you're craving that shine and toughness, the G-Shock GM2100 gives you that metal and durability with none of the cosplay. And through this watch lives in a very weird place. It's too loud for purists, but it's too plasticky for snobs, and it's also too obscure for mainstream. So unless you've got a secret fetish for verbal abuse and ego shaming, you might want to hide this from your fellow watch pirates. I'm seeing more and more of these RM homages on the market, and this is actually the fourth brand that I've reviewed on this channel. Richard Mille carved this niche for themselves, and now the Chinese microbrands are filling it in very quickly. And clearly, it's working. These watches keep popping up, which means a lot of people out there are actually buying these things. But so long as you treat this as a fashion watch, or a toy watch if you want to call it that, the $300 that you're giving to geyawatch is actually going to a fun piece that you really enjoy if you're really into that kind of thing.